The more interesting dynamics behind this seems to be the role of external players. Did China influence Iran's decision to move towards a ceasefire and the potential negotiations with the United States?
As markets have been sniffing around for a while, China, has sort of conflicting trends with the conflict in Iran. On the economic front, 90% of Iran's oil was destined, for the Pacific and for China. China gets oil from many different suppliers, but Iran and the rest of the Gulf is clearly one of its largest suppliers of oil. They have plenty of oil in storage and so on, but it certainly is not good for them to have this kind of spike. And in particular, people look at the futures markets and, now oil has dropped a lot with the news that these negotiations are going on. But even when Brent futures were like at 100, 110, the actual oil for delivery cargoes were trading at 140. So this was a big, big price spike. So of course, China, it's not in their interest to have these prices sustained for a long time and this kind of shutdown. On the other hand, having the U.S. bogged down in the Middle East is strategically not the worst thing for China. If you take a step back, everything that we get from China and as far as the Sino-U.S. relationships, and this plays into the May 14th, 15th summit between President Xi Jinping and President Trump, is that both sides are really looking to enhance stability of relationships between the two. Neither side wants to escalate. And maybe you don't get a huge breakthrough either, but let's keep things going basically as is. So there was a sort of a soft deadline, I suppose, ahead of this summit, which is still on. Not only is it on, but Beijing is making preparation. They're upset about the naval blockade, but at the same time, we wrote a report yesterday that says that they're looking to roll out the red carpet for Trump and Melania, the first lady, when she comes there, and they're going to take them to the Temple of Heaven and do all this pomp and circumstance and military parades and all this kind of stuff. And so, yes, they clearly they have a lot of influence on Iran. Of course, when you're in an existential fight like the Iranian leadership, you have other considerations as well, survival. But once the environment, especially on the U.S. side, looked like there may be some softening of the position from President Trump that he's looking to de-escalate, then the Chinese were quite happy to facilitate. And not only that, they've gone public in their efforts and said, we helped bring these negotiations to where they are now.